You don't know how much you want until you try to stop. That's the secret modernity hides from you. You're sold the lie that desire is life. Swipe for more, scroll for more, buy, eat, touch, consume. They say a man without hunger is half dead. That fulfillment is found in more. But Schopenhauer, sharp-eyed and merciless, saw through the seduction. He knew desire is a leash, not a fuel. You spend your days restless. You tell yourself it's ambition, that it's the fire pushing you forward. But the truth is uglier. You're trapped. You think you're free because you can choose your poison. But every choice comes from lack. Every craving is proof of emptiness. Schopenhauer saw the world as will, an endless grinding hunger that uses you, breaks you, then moves on. So you chase sex, money, validation, the next dopamine drip. You tell yourself it's progress, self-expression, even freedom. But watch what happens when you finally get what you want. There's a moment of pleasure, a flash of triumph, and then nothing. The old hunger returns, a little deeper, a little meaner. You're not filled. You're emptier, more anxious, more desperate to find the next fix. Modern men are slaves, not to any master, but to their own wanting. You feel it when you reach for your phone every 5 minutes, when you can't sit in silence without stimulation, when you need someone, anyone, to tell you that you matter. You've mistaken endless appetite for strength when it's actually weakness. The man who cannot say no to himself will never command anything else. Schopenhauer's message was simple and savage. To be free, you must resist. Not just society, not just other people's expectations, but your own insatiable will. Power doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from mastering the want itself, from standing in the fire of hunger and refusing to move. You live in a world that worships the satisfied man. But you know the truth. The more you indulge, the less you have. Every time you cave to the urge, you grow smaller. Every time you deny it, you grow stronger. You don't find yourself in the fulfillment of desire. You find yourself in its rejection, in the empty space that's left when you stop feeding the beast. That's the secret no one tells you. Masculine strength is not in abundance, but in absence. Not in chasing, but in refusing to run. Not in more, but in mastery. Schopenhauer's real lesson is this. If you want power, start by saying no. Everywhere you look, the world tempts you to believe that fulfillment is just one more desire away. That the right woman, the perfect job, the next thrill, will finally quiet the gnawing inside your chest. But Arthur Schopenhauer, ruthless as ever, exposed the lie. What you call fulfillment is just the brief pause between hungers. Every pleasure is a setup for more longing. You think you're building satisfaction. You're really digging your own grave, one indulgence at a time. Scroll through your day. How many times do you reach for something? Food, porn, attention, a like, a message, just to fill the space. Modern life is engineered for this. It weaponizes your will, trains you to chase every urge, rewards you for obedience to your own weakness. You become a connoisseur of fleeting pleasures, each one a little weaker, a little less satisfying than the last. You wonder why you feel emptier after every high. Schopenhauer saw it in stark terms. The will, the source of all striving, doesn't care if you're happy. It doesn't care if you succeed. It only wants more. And if you let it, it will use you up and leave nothing behind but the memory of wanting. Men chase fulfillment thinking it's a prize, but it's a carrot on a stick, and the stick grows longer every year. This is why most men are so easy to break. Offer them comfort, and they surrender their edge. Offer them pleasure, and they abandon their code. Watch what happens when the promise of satisfaction is dangled in front of them. They become predictable, compliant, weak. The world knows this. Every algorithm, every marketing campaign, every manipulative lover counts on your inability to say no. And every time you indulge, you lose ground. You become less the builder and more the consumer, less the master, more the servant. Your soul atrophies under the weight of ease. Your spirit shrinks under the shadow of abundance. But there's a path out, a brutal, honest path. Every act of denial is a reclamation of self. Every refusal to indulge is a reminder that you are more than your hungers. Each time you say no to an easy pleasure, you remind your will that you are not its slave. This isn't about asceticism for its own sake. It's about sovereignty, about the kind of power that can't be bought, seduced, or distracted. It's about being the kind of man who can sit with his own hunger and not flinch, who can walk through the fire of longing and not beg for relief. Schopenhauer didn't promise happiness. He promised clarity, the clarity that comes when you finally see desire for what it is, a chain around your neck, a leash in the hands of anyone who knows what you want. The man who denies himself is not empty. He's becoming untouchable. Let the world chase fulfillment. You chase mastery. You feel it every time you give in. The aftertaste, that subtle erosion at the edges of your ambition, your clarity, your fire. Modern men are taught to chase pleasure like it's a reward for being alive, a sign that you're on the right path, proof that you're winning. But Schopenhauer knew pleasure is a blade, and every time you indulge, it scrapes a little more edge off who you are. It doesn't make you sharper. It makes you soft, compliant, easy to herd. You tell yourself you've earned it, that you're just taking care of yourself, enjoying life, unwinding. But look at yourself honestly after the thrill fades. Are you stronger, more grounded? Or do you feel a little more like a ghost, comfortable, distracted, but less present, less real? This is what Schopenhauer meant when he wrote about the will. Your pleasures are not yours. You serve them. You become a tool, a means to your own end. Every time you run from discomfort into the arms of relief, every craving that owns you is a blueprint for your downfall. When you must have her, must eat this, must scroll, must buy, must escape, what you're really doing is handing out pieces of yourself. You are predictable, and what is predictable can always be controlled. That's why men who cannot say no are always manipulated by women, by the world, by their own hungry ghosts. You think asceticism is outdated. You think it's denial for denial's sake, a joyless exercise. You are wrong. Asceticism is war. It's the refusal to let anything outside yourself have authority over you. Every moment you choose discomfort over indulgence, you reclaim a territory in your own mind. You begin to rebuild something ancient, the man who is unmoved, unbought, unbroken by circumstance or temptation. This is the masculine edge the world is desperate to blunt. Why? Because a man who can suffer and not break, who can desire and not obey, who can want and not be moved, cannot be governed. He is a threat. He sets his own standard. He brings a kind of energy into every room that others feel but can't name. He is not ruled by pleasure, but by principle. But you can only build that edge in the fire of refusal. Every time you want and do not take, you become harder, cleaner, more present. You discover that your will is not your enemy. It's your proving ground. This is where power is built, in saying no to yourself until your yes means something. Schopenhauer didn't call you to misery. He called you to mastery. You don't need more pleasure. You need more presence. You need to sharpen yourself on the whetstone of denial, to become the man who stands when others fall, who commands himself in a world that demands surrender. pleasure will make you soft. Only resistance will make you real. Most men never even look beneath the surface. They think their desires are natural, organic, harmless. They assume wanting is just being alive, that there's no hidden mechanism, no secret trap. Schopenhauer ripped the mask off that delusion. He saw desire for what it really is: machinery, gears grinding in the dark, compulsions passed down, reinforced by society, by media, by everyone who profits from you staying weak. Desire is not freedom, it's programming. The urge you feel to check your phone, to chase her, to run from your own boredom or pain. None of it is as personal as you think. You inherited it, absorbed it. Let it be installed one small habit at a time. The problem isn't that you want. The problem is you think you're in charge. You're not, until you finally confront how little of your life is chosen and how much is compulsive reaction. This is why asceticism is the real act of rebellion in an age of consumption. It's not about becoming a monk. It's about waking up, about breaking the trance. Every day, you're offered thousands of ways to numb out, to self-soothe, to stay comfortable and harmless. Each time you choose otherwise, you expose the machinery. You see where you're being played. You finally get a glimpse of what you could become if you weren't always running from yourself. Look in the mirror. What owns you? What can you not go a day without? Is it coffee, sex, validation, social approval, distraction? Each one is a shackle. You think you're too modern to be a slave, but the reality is harsher. You are shackled by your compulsions just as surely as any prisoner in chains. Schopenhauer wanted you to confront the discomfort, not escape it, to sit in silence with your hunger and realize it will not kill you. In fact, it will reveal you. Asceticism is the forge. It's where the false self burns away, where the real man is hammered out of the noise and neediness. Every small act of resistance rewires your brain, sharpens your edge, reclaims your power. It starts small, skipping a meal, sitting with discomfort, not reaching for your usual escape. Each time, you remind yourself, you are not a slave. You can command yourself. You are building something that pleasure can never touch. Real, unshakable self-respect. Because the world doesn't respect the man who obeys every urge. He is dismissed, ignored, used. But the man who governs himself is trusted, admired, and ultimately followed. He can suffer and keep his eyes clear, can want and not collapse, can stand alone when everyone else is on their knees. This is the daily practice Schopenhauer demands of you. Meet your compulsions head-on. Deny what weakens you. Forge yourself in the fire of discomfort until what once mastered you becomes powerless. In the machinery of desire, only the man who resists can truly say he is free. Everywhere you turn, you're told to be yourself. Indulge a little. Don't deny what you feel. It sounds liberating, but look around. Men who live by this gospel are invisible. They're not respected. They're not desired. And they certainly don't lead. Why? Because Schopenhauer saw what few ever will. Real power, the kind that radiates and draws others in, is born not in indulgence, but in resistance. The man who denies his own easy pleasures becomes the center of gravity wherever he stands. Think of the men you admire, the ones whose presence is felt before they speak. Are they slaves to their appetites? Are they always reaching, always chasing, always apologizing for wanting too much or too loudly? Or do they move with discipline, a sense of restraint, a silent authority that you can't fake? That's not repression. That's mastery, and it's magnetic. Every time you say no to the second drink, to the empty sex, to the urge to escape, you make yourself visible in a sea of the lost and the weak. You become a standard. Others start to notice. Women sense it instantly. They might test it, even challenge it, but underneath, they respect it because it's rare. Most men fold at the first sign of discomfort. The man who stands firm, who is unmoved by pleasure, becomes both a challenge and a beacon. This isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about proving every day that you can command yourself before you ever try to command anyone else. Power flows from this refusal. Authority is built on this bedrock. Even intimacy, real, earned connection, can only exist when you are not driven by need, when your presence isn't a demand for validation, but a gift you control. Notice how people lean in toward the man who doesn't need them. Notice how his words carry weight, how his silence creates tension, how his approval is valued and his rejection feared. The world runs on this energy, whether it admits it or not. The weak seek comfort. The strong draw others into their field, simply by the force of their discipline. And here's what no one will say out loud. Denying desire doesn't make you less human. It makes you more. The animal obeys impulse. The man creates meaning, carves out his own law, becomes the architect of his own reputation and fate. Schopenhauer's ascetic is not shrinking from life. He's expanding into it, filling the room with the unmistakable presence of someone who is not at the mercy of anything or anyone. So you want respect. You want women to feel you, men to listen to you, the world to give you space. Then stop begging for pleasure. Deny it. Command yourself. Let the hunger sharpen you, and watch the world respond as if you finally, unmistakably, exist. This is where it all leads. The edge you've earned, the silence you've survived, the discipline you've built. Arthur Schopenhauer wasn't just telling you to deny yourself for the sake of denial. He was showing you the door to something higher, something most men will never touch. True presence, real power, the ability to look desire in the eye and simply walk past it. That's what separates the lost from the legendary. You look around and see men begging for crumbs, scrambling for attention, desperate for relief from the emptiness gnawing at them. They are everywhere, at work, in the gym, on every app, in every bed that will have them. They never stop to ask who they could become if they stopped obeying every urge. They never stand still long enough to see that their whole life has been spent running from pain, from boredom, from themselves. But you're different now, or you can be. Every act of denial is a declaration. I am not a slave. You understand now that pleasure isn't the reward, it's the test. And most men fail it, quickly, quietly, with a shrug and a rationalization. But you, if you take this path, become the exception. You become the man who is seen, who is heard, who is remembered. Not because you shouted, but because you carried something the world could feel, self-command. It won't make you popular, at least not at first. The crowd doesn't love the man who won't kneel to their distractions. Women will be drawn to you, yes, but some will find you threatening, confusing, even infuriating. Let them. You don't exist to be understood. You exist to set the standard, your standard. The ascetic's path is narrow, but it is yours alone, unbought, unbroken. This is the law you write for yourself, to rise above hunger, to master your own will every single day, not by accident, but by decision, to prove that your value doesn't depend on how much you can consume, but on how much you can refuse. When others run from emptiness, you walk through it, and what you build on the other side is the only kind of legacy that lasts. You're not just denying pleasure, you're forging identity. You're not shrinking from life. You're becoming too solid to be moved, too present to be ignored, too rare to be forgotten. The world may never thank you, but it will respect you. And the men who need this message most, the ones lost in the maze of their own wanting, will find you and follow your lead. So if this cuts through the noise, if you're done living on your knees, done chasing the next fix, ready to claim something higher, make it known. Drop your conviction in the comments. Subscribe if you're ready for a brotherhood that honors strength over surrender. Share this with a man who's been told indulgence is life, who needs to remember that mastery is the only freedom worth dying for. Don't just fade away, live it. The world's full of men who can't say no. Be the one who can.